Now here's a car some would argue Toyota simply doesn't need. It's the new Fortuner. It's yet another SUV in the Toyota stables, and if you add them up, it takes the tally to 7, more than any other brand. Underneath, the Fortuner borrows mechanicals from the Hilux Ute. It's the same 2.8 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine and the same basic platform, but it gets a traditional SUV body. All Fortuners have 7 seats, all have a diesel engine, all have a 4-wheel drive system. It's all about keeping it simple and keeping it tough and rugged. Inside you've got some reminders of the Hilux, so some of the presentation, the steering wheel for example, the switch gear and the general theme, but overall they've put enough new stuff in there to give it its own personality. You've got some really nice stitching kicking around, 2 glove boxes which is pretty handy, and you've got decent space in that middle row of seats which can also slide forwards and backwards. Now Toyota already has some 7-seat off-roaders, the Land Cruiser and the Prado, and each of them is very good at serious off-roading. But the difference with this is that it's cheaper, it's more affordable. In fact, it is the most affordable diesel SUV that Toyota does, and that's its appeal. You see, the Fortuner is roughly the same size as the Kluger, which also has 7 seats, except that they're aimed at very different people. So the Kluger's more about city driving, maybe some weekends away, ferrying the kids around, that sort of thing. This car's more about adventure, it's about getting out there, it's about going off-road, getting around Australia if you want to. And that means it's compromised in other areas. As I said, it's based on the Hilux, so it's more truck-like underneath. You've got that ladder frame chassis, whereas the Kluger is more car-like. It's based on a Camry, so it drives more like a car around town. And where you notice the biggest difference is on the road. The steering's not as accurate as some, and it can bounce around a little bit more. It's just not as car-like to drive. But it makes up for all of that in the rough stuff. The minute you hit rough roads, it's certainly a really accomplished car. You've got heaps of ground clearance. You're talking 279 millimetres. That's more than a Land Cruiser. You've got really good 4-wheel drive system, so it'll clamber up all sorts of hills and do it fairly effortlessly. And there's plenty of underbody protection underneath, so you can bash it into things and it won't necessarily wreck the car. The diesel engine, well, it's no fireball. It's 130 kilowatts of power. With this automatic, I'm in 450 newton meters, so it's that torque, that mid-rev pull that makes it really good. It does have plenty of strength where you need it. 1500 revs onward, it's pulling really nicely. One area the Fortuner does really well is with noise, or the lack of noise. It's actually pretty quiet when you're cruising at 90 or 100 k's an hour. It subdues everything, whether it's wind noise and even the engine noise, which you can hear a bit when you're accelerating, is all pretty well muffled. Then you've got the price, and for the Fortuner it kicks off at a bit under $50,000, but that's for a manual. You bang on 50 grand once you get the 6-speed auto that most people are going to put in it. And for this one I'm in the Crusade, which is top of the line. It's 62 grand with that automatic transmission, so it's not exactly cheap, but you do get a fair bit of kit. You get your leather trim, electric seats, obviously air conditioning all the way through, which they've done a good job on, some fake wood grain trim, that sort of thing. It doesn't have everything though. You haven't got, for instance, dual zone climate control. Instead you've got just a single temperature zone for the cabin, and it also misses out on those active safety features, things like blind spot warning and auto braking, which are becoming a lot more common these days. But one of the biggest challenges with the Fortuner may be getting hold of one. There's been so much early demand that Toyota simply cannot build enough to keep up with it. It seems there is huge appeal for what is a rugged, mega capable off-roader that's also affordable and practical.